Evan Miller had spent most of his life among machines and metal. The orbital station he worked on was old, quiet, and sometimes dangerous. Many people avoided it, but Evan liked it. There was peace here. The hum of generators and the steady vibration of the station through space were like a rhythm he had learned to follow. He liked to walk along the corridors during his breaks, checking panels and making small repairs. Today, however, the station felt different. The usual dull gray walls seemed colder, and the lights flickered in a way they never had before. Evan was inspecting a section of the maintenance deck when the alarms went off. A low, steady beep, followed by flashing red lights, filled the hall. It was a minor reactor tremor, one that did not usually mean danger, but Evan knew better than to ignore it. He quickly activated his suit's emergency lights and began moving toward the source of the problem. The tremor had caused some structural damage near the docking bay, and Evan could hear metal groaning in protest. As he rounded a corner, he noticed a figure lying on the floor. At first, he thought it was debris or a mannequin, the way it was still and unmoving. But as he got closer, he realized it was a person, a woman. She was badly hurt. Her left arm was bent at an odd angle, and there were scratches along her cheek and neck. Her clothing was torn, and dust covered her shoulders. Evan's heart skipped a beat. He had seen injuries before, but something about her made him act quickly without thinking. "Are you okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. His voice sounded louder than he intended in the empty hall. The woman looked up at him. Her eyes were wide but steady. I think so," she said, her voice soft but calm. She did not seem afraid, even though her arm was clearly broken. Evan quickly assessed the situation. "You need medical help, fast. Can you move?" "I think, yes." "With help," she replied. Evan carefully lifted her into his arms. She was light for an adult, but surprisingly strong, and she didn't resist. He moved slowly, careful not to worsen her injuries. The station corridors were narrow and filled with scattered debris from the tremor. But Evan knew the quickest path to the maintenance bay. "You're lucky I was here," he said, trying to sound casual. "This area gets quiet and ADO. But that also makes it dangerous sometimes." She gave a small nod. "Thank you. Evan laughed softly. "Just don't die on me. That's enough repayment for now." The maintenance bay was not large, but it had the basic tools Evan needed. He gently laid her on a table designed for machinery repairs. It was not ideal for a human, but it would do. He fetched a medkit from the wall, which he had installed himself for emergencies. "Name's Evan," he said as he opened the kit. "I do maintenance here." "You?" "Lena," she replied, keeping her tone calm and polite. She didn't give a last name, and Evan assumed she wanted privacy. Evan began cleaning her wounds carefully. He applied antiseptic to the scratches and began wrapping her arm with a makeshift sling. Lena watched him silently. There was something about the way he moved, confident but gentle, that caught her attention. Most people she had encountered were either too cautious or too arrogant. Evan was neither. "You work alone?" she asked after a moment. "Mostly. I fix what's broken and keep the station running. People come and go. No one stays long enough to notice the quiet parts," Evan replied, not thinking much about why he was explaining himself to her. Lena's eyes followed his hands as he tied the sling. "You're careful," she said. "I have to be. One wrong move here, and something could explode. Or collapse," Evan said. "I've seen it happen more times than I care to remember." Lena smiled faintly, not in amusement but in recognition. "Too careful for a soldier," she said softly. Evan paused, looking at her. "I'm not a soldier. Just a guy trying to do his job." "You do more than just your job," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "You care." He shrugged. "I guess I do. I don't like seeing people hurt if I can help it." For a moment, they sat in silence. The hum of the station the only sound. Evan noticed that Lena didn't flinch at the flickering lights or the smell of burning metal from the tremor. There was a quiet strength in her that felt unusual. "I need to get you somewhere safe," Evan said after a while. "This station isn't exactly secure right now, and someone could get hurt. Or worse, someone could try to hurt you." Lena hesitated. She looked at him carefully, then nodded. "I trust you." Evan felt a strange sense of responsibility. He didn't know who she really was, but the thought of leaving her alone in the station felt wrong. He helped her to her feet carefully. Her weight was light, but she had a surprising steadiness. Together, they moved slowly toward the maintenance shuttle bay. The corridors were narrow and cluttered with debris, but Evan knew all the shortcuts and hidden paths. As they moved, they heard voices echoing through the station. Footsteps. Not human footsteps, he thought immediately. The voices were harsh, with accents that made no sense to him. He glanced at Lena, who didn't panic but instead stepped closer to him. "Trouble?" he whispered. "Yes. Stay calm," she replied. The group of armed figures appeared at the next junction. They were large, wearing dark armor, and carried weapons that glowed faintly. Evan froze for a moment, unsure what to do. He had never faced anything like this. "They're looking for something, or someone," Lena said quietly. Evan's mind raced. "We can't fight them." "Not like this." "No," Lena agreed. "We have to move fast and stay hidden." Evan nodded. He led her through a service corridor, one that only station workers knew. The walls were narrow, and there were pipes overhead, but they moved quickly and quietly. Every step felt tense. Evan could feel his heart pounding, but he kept his focus. "Why are they after you?" he asked in a low voice. Lena didn't answer immediately. She looked straight ahead, her face calm, but unreadable. "It doesn't matter," she said finally. "We need to get out." They reached a small maintenance hatch that led to the shuttle bay. Evan opened it carefully, checking the corridor before letting Lena through. She moved swiftly, almost effortlessly, even with her injuries. Once in the shuttle bay, Evan began prepping a small shuttle he often used for maintenance inspections. It wasn't fast or heavily armed, but it would get them off the station. Lena sat quietly in the pilot seat, while Evan checked the systems. "You fly often?" he asked, trying to make conversation despite the danger. "Occasionally," she said, "but not in situations like this." Evan smiled slightly. "Well, you'll get practice." As he started the shuttle, the armed figures appeared at the edge of the bay, their weapons ready. Evan's heart skipped a beat. "Go!" he shouted. Lena pressed a few buttons, and the shuttle lifted off, just as the figures fired. The blasts hit the bay walls, sending sparks and debris flying. Evan handled the controls with care, lifting the shuttle into the main corridor leading out of the station. The ship shook, but he managed to stabilize it. Once clear of the station, Lena finally spoke. "You are brave. Or foolish. Perhaps both." "I just do what I think is right," Evan replied. "Doesn't matter who it is." Lena looked at him carefully, studying his face. "Not many humans would risk themselves like this for someone they barely know," she said. Evan shrugged. "Maybe they should. It doesn't take much to help someone." She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she leaned back in the seat, looking out at the stars. There was something in her expression, a mix of curiosity and something deeper that Evan couldn't read. They left the station behind, the red alarms fading as they entered open space. Evan kept the shuttle steady, glancing at Lena occasionally. She was silent now, not because of fear, but because she seemed to be thinking. "You saved my life," she said finally, her voice calm but with a hint of surprise. "I could say the same about you," Evan replied. "If you hadn't been injured, I wouldn't have known what was happening until it was too late." She smiled faintly, a real smile that didn't hide anything. "Thank you, Evan. You don't need to thank me. Just stay alive, okay?" he said, a small grin on his face. Lena nodded. "I will, because you cared. And that is rare." As the shuttle moved further from the station, Evan still didn't know who Lena truly was. She had given no surname, no clue about where she came from, or why someone would want to harm her. But he knew one thing. He would not let anything happen to her if he could help it. For Lena, this human's simplicity, honesty, and courage were strange. She had met many humans before, but none like Evan. He didn't see her as a powerful figure, a ruler, or someone wealthy. He only saw a person in need of help. That alone made her start to think differently about humanity. The stars stretched ahead of them, endless and bright. Danger still loomed, and the armed figures would not give up so easily. But for the first time in years, Lena felt something she had not felt in a long time: trust. And for Evan, he felt something he didn't quite understand either. Curiosity, perhaps. Wonder. The feeling that this was not just another emergency, that helping her might change things for both of them in ways he could not yet imagine. The shuttle hummed quietly through space, carrying them away from the ruined station. Neither spoke for a long time. Outside, the universe went on, indifferent, full of possibilities. But inside the small shuttle, a connection had begun, a bond between a simple human and a woman who was far more than she appeared to be. And though Evan didn't know it yet, this small act of helping someone in need would set off a chain of events that could change the course of his life, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The shuttle moved steadily through space. Evan's hands were steady on the controls, but he couldn't stop thinking about the people who had attacked them. Who were they? And why were they after Lena? He glanced at her, seated quietly, her arm in a sling. She looked calm, almost serene, but there was something in her eyes that told him she understood the danger better than he did. "You're quiet," he said finally, breaking the silence. "I have a lot to think about," Lena replied, her eyes on the stars outside the cockpit. "You risked your life to help me. Most people would not do that." "I did what anyone should do," Evan said. "If I left you there, it would have been wrong." She turned to look at him fully. "You are different from most humans I have met. You don't care about my status or wealth. You only see me as a person." Evan shrugged. "Maybe I'm naive. Or maybe I just don't care about titles. I care about people." Lena studied him quietly for a moment. She had met countless humans, some brave, some cunning, and some cruel. But Evan was different. He had courage, yes, but it was not the kind that came from pride or desire for reward. His bravery came from the heart. They traveled through open space for hours, avoiding patrol routes and staying on hidden trajectories. Evan had seen charts of nearby systems, but he did not know much about politics or power. He only knew how to navigate a shuttle and how to survive. Lena, however, seemed to know exactly where they could go safely. She guided him with small hints, suggesting adjustments to the course that he had never considered. "You've flown a lot, haven't you?" Evan asked, trying to make conversation. "Not much," she said. "But I know enough to stay alive." Evan smiled. "Seems like that's working." Lena smiled faintly back, but her mind was elsewhere. She had escaped danger this time, but the threat would not end. Whoever had sent the mercenaries would not stop easily. And now, because of Evan, she had seen a small part of humanity. She had almost forgotten the part that cared about others without expecting anything in return. Hours later, they reached a small, abandoned mining outpost on a remote asteroid. It was far from any major shipping lane, and it offered a place to hide. Evan had discovered it during routine maintenance runs and had kept the coordinates in case of emergency. "This will do for now," he said, guiding the shuttle to a landing pad. The outpost was old, and dust from space clung to its walls, but it would protect them temporarily. Lena stepped out carefully, testing her leg. Evan helped her, supporting her as they walked to the main building. Inside, the outpost was quiet, empty, and strangely comforting. Evan set up a small area for her to rest. "You should rest," he said. "Your arm needs time to heal." "I will," Lena replied. "But we cannot stay here long. They will come looking for me again, and they will not give up." Evan frowned. "Who are they? Why are they after you?" Lena hesitated. For a moment, She looked at him, as if deciding how much to reveal. I am not just anyone, she said finally. I have responsibilities, powers that most people cannot imagine. Evan blinked. Powers? I am someone important, she said, her voice quiet but firm. Someone with influence across many systems. Evan tried to process her words. He had heard stories of rulers and wealthy leaders, but he never imagined he would meet one. And certainly, he never thought he would protect one from danger. So, you're like a queen? He asked cautiously. Lena did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked out at the dark space beyond the windows, her eyes distant. Something like that, she said at last. I am trusted with a lot of responsibility. Many lives depend on the choices I make. And right now, my life depends on someone like you. Evan was stunned. Me? Yes, she said. You saved me without knowing who I am. That is rare. Most people would act out of fear or greed. Evan shook his head. I didn't even know you were anyone important. I just saw someone hurt and tried to help. Lena smiled faintly. Exactly. And that is why I trust you. For the next few hours, they stayed in the outpost. Evan repaired some of the old systems, making sure the shelter had power, lights, and communication tools. Lena rested, watching him work, occasionally offering quiet advice. He noticed that she was intelligent and aware, not just physically, but in thought. Her mind was sharp, calculating, and still kind. Evan worked quietly, occasionally glancing at her. You really don't want to tell me who you are? He asked finally. Lena shook her head. Not yet. You don't need to know. Just trust me when I say that the danger is real. Evan nodded. I trust you. But I also need to understand so I can help. She smiled faintly. Soon, you will know. But for now, focus on keeping us safe, even in a quiet moment. The tension never left the air. Evan knew the mercenaries would come back. He had no weapons, only his knowledge of the station and the shuttle. Lena had her own ways of evading capture, but he had no idea how far she could go. As night passed on the asteroid, Lena finally spoke more about her life. I manage trade routes, fleets, and colonies. I make decisions that affect thousands, sometimes millions. And yet, no one really sees me. People see the power, the wealth, the title. They don't see the person behind it. Evan listened carefully. That sounds lonely. It is, she admitted. Until now, I haven't met someone who treated me like a human first, and not like a ruler. Evan smiled. Well, I'm just a human who fixes machines. Maybe that's enough. Lena looked at him thoughtfully. It is enough. More than enough. Their conversation was interrupted by a warning light blinking on the shuttle's panel. Evan frowned. Something's out there, he said, rushing to check the sensors. Lena stood beside him, calm but alert. They've found our location sooner than I expected, she said. Evan's stomach tightened. How many? Too many to fight, Lena said quietly. We need to move, now. They hurried to the shuttle. Evan started the engines, his hands steady despite the rising tension. Outside, several sleek ships approached the asteroid, weapons glowing faintly. Evan took a deep breath, trusting Lena's guidance. Follow my instructions, she said. I know how to get us out safely. Evan nodded. Lead the way. The shuttle lifted off just as the enemy ships fired. Sparks flew, and the asteroid's surface lit up with energy blasts. Evan maneuvered carefully, following Lena's directions. She guided him through hidden asteroid belts, using her knowledge of the terrain to avoid attacks. You're good at this, Evan said, impressed. I have to be, Lena replied. My life depends on it. Hours passed as they moved through dangerous space. Evan marveled at her skill. She had remained calm, even when danger was all around them. He began to realize that her power was not just in her title or wealth, but in her mind and her ability to stay composed under pressure. Finally, they reached a remote, neutral space station, one used by traders and miners. It was far from the main routes, and it offered a place to hide. Evan guided the shuttle into a docking bay, his hands still trembling slightly from the earlier escape. Once inside, Lena looked at him seriously. "Evan, you should know the truth now. I am Lena Voris. I am one of the most powerful and wealthy people in the galaxy. Many systems rely on my decisions. My fleets, my trade, my alliances, they all start and end with me." Evan froze for a moment, trying to take it in. You're the woman the mercenaries were after?" "Yes," she said. "And now they know I am here. They will not stop until they capture me. But I trust you, Evan. You have helped me more than you know." Evan shook his head. "I didn't know. I just helped someone in trouble. That's all, and that is why I trust you," Lena said, smiling softly. "Because you didn't care about my wealth or my power. You only cared about me as a person." Evan felt a strange mix of pride and disbelief. He had never imagined that helping someone could lead to this. Suddenly, he realized that his small act of kindness had pulled him into a world far bigger and more dangerous than anything he had known. Lena stood, her injured arm carefully supported. "We must plan our next move," she said. "We cannot stay here long. But I want you to know, Evan, that your courage and your heart have made a difference. You have changed the way I see humanity." Evan nodded, still trying to absorb everything. "I just did what felt right." "Exactly," Lena said. "And that is why you matter." As they prepared for the next stage of their journey, Evan realized that his life would never be the same. He was no longer just a maintenance technician on a quiet station. He was now the one human who had earned the trust of the most powerful woman in the galaxy. And he knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. Evan Miller had never imagined he would be sitting in the bridge of a capital fleet ship, listening to orders that affected hundreds of systems. Just days ago, he had been a simple maintenance technician, focused on keeping lights on and engines running. Now, he was here because Lena Voris trusted him, and because a simple act of kindness had pulled him into a galaxy of power, politics, and danger. The capital ship was enormous, its walls lined with consoles and glowing panels. Lena moved with ease among the crew, giving short instructions and nodding when needed. She did not carry herself like a ruler who demanded fear or obedience. Instead, she was confident and calm, and her presence alone commanded respect. Evan watched quietly from the side, feeling both awe and anxiety. "You'll be safe here," Lena said, noticing his tension. Her voice was gentle but firm. "But you will also see why I asked you to come." Evan nodded, trying to calm himself. I don't belong in all this. I'm not like you. You belong because you are human. And because you care," Lena said. "I need someone like you to remind me of what matters. Not everything is about power or money. Sometimes, it's about people." Evan stayed close to Lena as she moved to the command chair, observing the screens that showed distant systems. He could see planets, fleets, and colonies displayed in detailed holograms. It was overwhelming, and he struggled to understand the scope of it. "Do you see all this?" Lena asked softly. "Every decision I make can change lives. Every choice has consequences." Evan nodded. "I see. And you carry it all on your shoulders." "I do," she said. "But I also have people I trust. People like you. You saved me when no one else would. And that tells me that I can count on you." Evan felt both proud and nervous. He had never thought of himself as someone important. He had only acted out of instinct, helping someone in need. Yet now, his actions had changed the course of events on a scale he could barely imagine. Just then, alarms sounded. A distant system had reported attacks by a rogue faction. Lena's advisors scrambled to relay information, and Evan realized that the danger was constant. He saw the tension on Lena's face, the way she had to balance calmness with quick decision-making. "Evan," she said, noticing his worry, "you will help me with this. Not by commanding fleets or making laws, but by helping me see things clearly. From a human perspective, sometimes I get lost in strategy and politics, and your honesty is what I need." Evan swallowed nervously. I can try. That is all I ask," Lena said, smiling faintly. "Your perspective is valuable. Don't underestimate it." Over the next few days, Evan traveled with Lena to several colonies that had been attacked. He saw the destruction left behind, homes burned, ships destroyed, people in fear. Lena moved with efficiency and care, arranging supplies, rebuilding stations, and giving orders to protect the people. Evan helped where he could, repairing machinery, fixing damaged life support systems, and offering encouragement to the workers. "What amazes me," Evan said one evening as they looked out at a repaired colony, "is how calm you stay, even with all this happening." Lena leaned against the balcony rail, her eyes on the stars. "I've had to learn," she said. "Power alone doesn't help anyone. You have to act with thought, care, and sometimes with compassion. It's not easy, but it's necessary." Evan nodded. "I think that's why I trust you. You care about people, not just your power." Lena smiled faintly. "And that is why I trust you." As the days went by, Evan noticed something changing in Lena. She had spent years surrounded by advisors, leaders, and diplomats who were polite but distant. No one had ever challenged her or seen her as a human being. Evan's honesty and simple kindness had reminded her that there was more to leadership than fear or respect. "You know," Lena said one evening, "before you helped me, I thought people only cared about me for what I could give them: money, power, influence. But you cared because it was the right thing to do. Not for reward, not for recognition." Evan shrugged. "I don't think about that stuff. I see a person in need, and I try to help. That's all. And that is exactly why it matters," Lena said softly. The galaxy, however, was not idle. The rogue faction that had attacked the colonies was growing bolder. Reports came in daily, smaller systems being attacked, trade routes disrupted, and fleets ambushed. Lena had to respond quickly, and Evan found himself learning about diplomacy, logistics, and leadership on the fly. He was not a politician, but he offered simple, honest advice when Lena asked. "Maybe we can fix the supply lines first," he suggested one morning. "If people get food and water, it will calm things down, even if the ships are attacked. People need basics before everything else." Lena considered his words, then nodded. "You're right. Sometimes, the small things matter more than the big ones. Thank you." Evan realized that even small ideas could have a big impact when used by someone with the power to act. He began to see that his role was important not because he commanded fleets, but because he reminded Lena of what was human and real. One day, as they traveled to a distant mining colony that had been attacked, Lena asked Evan to join her in the control room. "I want you to see something," she said. "Something important." Evan followed her, unsure what to expect. Lena brought up holograms of several colonies, showing them before and after her interventions. People were rebuilding, children were returning to schools, ships were repaired, and trade routes were reopening. "These people are alive because of our work," Lena said softly. "But more than that, they have hope. And hope is powerful." Evan looked at the images, feeling a strange pride. "We did this?" he asked. "Yes," Lena said. "Because of courage, because of care, because of people willing to act. People like you, Evan." He felt uncomfortable with the praise, but also honored. He had never thought of himself as a hero. And yet here he was, helping to restore entire colonies, traveling across space, and standing beside the most powerful woman in the galaxy. The days turned into weeks. Lena and Evan worked together to rebuild systems, negotiate with local leaders, and strengthen defenses. They traveled through dangerous space, often encountering threats that required quick thinking and courage. Evan learned to navigate not just ships, but the complexities of human and alien politics. One evening, as they looked out at a newly rebuilt colony, Lena spoke quietly. "Evan, you have changed me. You reminded me that leadership is not just about power. It's about people. And you are the reason." "I see that clearly." Evan shook his head. "I didn't do anything special. I just helped you when you needed it." "That is special," Lena said firmly. "Because most people would not. Most people would act out of fear, or ambition, or greed. You acted out of kindness. And that is rare." Evan felt a warmth he had never experienced before. He realized that his life, simple as it had been, had led to this moment standing beside a woman who had the power to shape the galaxy, yet who valued him not for what he could do for her, but for who he was. As they continued their journey, Evan noticed something else changing in Lena. She was more relaxed, more open, and more willing to listen to others. Her advisors noticed it too. She began to rely not only on strategy and power, but on empathy. Thanks to Evan's simple honesty and courage. "You have done more than save my life," Lena said one night as they rested on a quiet planet. "You have saved me from myself. You reminded me why I lead, and why I must care. And that will change everything." Not. Evan was quiet, unsure what to say. He had never thought of himself as important, never imagined he could influence someone of Lena's stature. Yet now, he saw that even a simple human could make a difference in the galaxy. The rogue faction was not gone, but Lena's strategies, combined with Evan's simple insights, began to turn the tide. Systems were safer, trade routes more secure, and the people had hope. News spread across the galaxy of a powerful leader who trusted a single human for advice and guidance. People whispered about the courage and honesty of Evan Miller, the man who had helped Lena Voris when no one else would. He had not sought recognition or reward. He had only acted out of instinct and care, and in doing so, he had changed the galaxy. One evening, as they looked out at a bright star, Lena turned to him. "Evan, I want you to continue with me. Not just as someone who helps with machines, but as a partner in making things better. Your perspective is invaluable." Evan felt a mixture of pride and disbelief. I can try. But I'm just a human. I don't have your knowledge or experience." "You have something far more important," Lena said. "You see the world as it is, not as it should be. You remind me of what matters. And that is worth more than all the knowledge in the galaxy." Evan smiled, realizing that his life had changed in ways he could never have imagined. He had started as a simple technician, helping someone in need, and now he was standing beside the most powerful woman in the galaxy, shaping the future with her. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and for the first time, Evan understood that his small act of courage, his willingness to help, and his simple honesty had created a bond that would influence the course of the galaxy itself. And as they looked out at the universe together, both knew that the story of a human who helped a powerful woman was only just beginning.